right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I appreciate you guys so much for taking time out of your Saturday morning to join us for this home buyer webinar. Can you believe we're at the end of March? It's been unbelievable. This year's flying by so quickly. So, anyways, there's been a lot of uncertainty, right, in our market. There's uncertainty with regards to affordability, uncertain in regards to our economic and political instabilities. There's questions about the interest rates and what's going on. And then on top of that, we have the market shift that's happening. And so it's created a lot of concerns for buyers, right? So for people that are in the market, they're just not sure what's going to happen. And so with what we want to achieve today is just, I've got Denise here. She's absolutely phenomenal. But hearing just from a couple of local experts, because there's a lot of noise going on right now, and a lot of it's national, a lot of it's just bloggers and things like that, Facebook posts that you see. And so we want to cut out the noise so that you can be educated here locally by our experts to understand and have confidence to be able to make the right decisions of whether or not it's the right thing for you guys to purchase a home at this moment, right? And so it may be or it may not be, and that's okay, right? That's the most important thing. But we want to make sure that you have the right information to have the confidence to make the right choices and the right decisions. Um, and so just wanted to do a quick introduction. My name is Daniel Young with Keller Williams. Been there for, gosh, it's been 12 years now. It's been unbelievable. And it's been a phenomenal journey and it's been really, really fun. But it's just a great opportunity just to be able to serve so many different families with their needs. And so and then I'm super excited because we have Denise here. Denise is like one of the top lenders, not just in the DFW area, but nationally. So Denise, like, why don't you just give yourself a quick introduction to everyone that's on here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And full disclosure, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with the computer, but we're going to roll with it because we can still have an awesome webinar, even with just on our phone. So, my name is Denise Donahue. I go by the Mortgage Nerd, and that's not because it's a catchy tagline or it's because I truly am a nerd. And to share a little bit about you and my story and why I'm so passionate about helping people is growing up, my parents got divorced when I was in second grade. And it was really rare for the dad back then, because I'm pretty old now. Back then, it was rare for the dad to get custody of three girls. But the judge granted him custody in part because my mom was deemed not mentally stable enough to raise us. And so my dad raised us. He did the best that he could. But when we were 17 years old in high school, we were about 4 months away from graduating. My dad lived in the same house for 26 years. Back then, people didn't move around a whole lot. So, in theory, he should have been 4 years away from paying off the house, right? But we came home from school and all of our belongings were on the front yard. And I remember being a senior in high school, seeing that and feeling like the feelings were first angry at my dad, scared, embarrassed. But I had no idea that a bank could take your house away. I was in high school. I didn't know that was a thing. But because that happened, that fueled me to being a nerd. And when I say that, I mean I became obsessed with learning about money, learning how to position myself and my future self in a way where my family would never be in that situation again. And so I started studying. Of course, I went to school. I went to Texas A&M and I learned a lot of the textbook stuff, but I think we'd all agree that sometimes the textbook stuff isn't really, what we need in real world stuff. Like how do you buy a home? Does your credit have to be perfect to buy a home? Do you need 20% down to buy a home? Is it irresponsible to buy a home with less than 20? Like these things I didn't learn in my economics classes. And so it really fueled me to get into the business. And what I learned was when I graduated college, I became a financial advisor because, of course, I felt that learning about money and how to make money work hard for you, I thought that that was going to be my place. But I realized that as a financial advisor, you're really working with people who already have money because they have enough money to invest. And I love people with money, but my people were kind of more of the people who maybe didn't have the upbringing or parents that taught them about money, or doesn't have a bunch of friends or professionals in their life that teach them about money. And so I found myself in the mortgage space because as a mortgage advisor, we see everything. We see all of your income, all of your debts, your credit, your FICO score. And sadly, what I learned about a mortgage role is 95% of people, like a mortgage loan officer, they go to learn mortgage guidelines to ensure you meet what are called Fannie and Freddie guidelines. They don't learn anything about finance. And I felt like that was a huge disservice. And I also felt that maybe if my dad had spoken to the right mortgage people, because he didn't have money to talk to financial advisors, but maybe if my dad had spoke to an advisor that had a finance brain that could help strategize, should we put more money down or not? Should we pay off those credit cards or not? Should we wait to buy and do XYZ? I truly feel like if your mortgage advisor has a finance brain, you can really position yourself to be in a better financial position if we structure your home loan right. And then if we quantify, okay, I'm renting now. This is my current debt position. This is how much money I have in the bank. And we just have a discovery call that says, is now a good time for you to buy? It might not be. I know every headline in America, and this is what I love so much about Daniel, is some doesn't it feel like sometimes when you speak to somebody in real estate, it's like they always tell you now's the time to buy or now's the time to sell. And Daniel's not like that. That's why him and I work so well together, is because we're going to look and assess your situation and determine if it actually makes sense. And we're going to not do that emotionally. We're going to do that factually and data driven with numbers and custom advice. Because, yeah, buying a home does help you build wealth and does help you build equity, but it doesn't always mean that now's the time for you to do so. So, that's a little bit about me. I go by the mortgage nerd because I truly am a nerd. And my passion is to help every homeowner make a really good decision for themselves and for their family. And sometimes that means owning real estate.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean that, and that's really our heartbeat, right? Is understanding Denise's story. You understand her journey. You understand the hardships, and it's heartbreaking, right? It's heartbreaking for us as real estate professionals when decisions are not made with the right information, right? And with the best information. So, we always want to lead with questions to understand your situation. It's a hard and uncertain time right now because like there are industries that are radically changing because of AI. And so if that's one of the first questions that I want to lead with is how are things in the home? Because again, if there's uncertainty and then yes, it may not be the right time to buy, right? And so that's a situation that you guys and as buyers will understand better than we do is that's the emotional piece, that's the intangible piece. And we want to lead with that question first is, hey, what's going on in your industry? What's going on in your home life? And then that's where Denise comes in and also she understands a bigger picture too is, hey, what's your financial portfolio, right? I mean, I love that she's a certified mortgage planner and not just a loan officer. So she looks at your entire portfolio. It really is a strategy. It really is sitting with your financial advisor and getting a full picture of it to understand, hey, what's the best decision for you? So that's the first question we would lead with in terms of our understanding. But what I wanted to do was again is just kind of go over what's going on in our marketplace, right? Because again, it's very, very confusing. And we're entering into a shift, something we haven't seen for over 10 years. And so what does that mean for our market? So Denise, what would you say is happening in our market specifically in the DFW area with regards to inventory, pricing, and what's going on there?
We are still the market has shifted over the last 6 months, and some of that is just standard seasonal things. that there's less activity in the fall and early spring of buying and selling because kind of those hot markets are the spring to summer months where you have more activity just by nature of there's not that many people that want to buy and sell around Thanksgiving or Christmas because it's not fun to have to pack your house up and still have Santa come in. Um, but we are still in an inventory shortage. And what that means is builders are not building as fast as the demand for people who want a home. And people think that this just started around the COVID time period, but actually we have charts and data that shows that builders slowed down, and we measure this by how many permits they're pulling for new construction homes. That started happening in 2017. And when you're in an area like DFW, we have a lot of people here and we have a lot of people relocating here because it's a good market. It's centralized from coast to coast. So if you're an executive and you have to travel, it's very central. We don't have income tax and we have a good job market. So it's a very high in demand marketplace. But builders started slowing down building homes. And so what that means is the number of available buyers that we have in the marketplace that are willing and able to buy far exceed the number of new construction homes that we have been building since 2017. And so what we've seen is the slow compound effect of that. And so what happens is where we sit today is the other component of this that you won't see on headlines is the window from about 2010 to 2022. It's kind of the unicorn decade. And when I say unicorn decade, I mean we had insanely low interest rates we've never seen before because we were recovering from a housing crash. And so because of that, there are over 60% of people right now with a home with an interest rate under 5%. And so when we talk about inventory and homes available for sale, we're talking about homes that are being built for new construction, but then that's also looking at resale homes, people who own a home that want to go on the market and resell them. But a lot of these people, which I actually love, they're considering more than ever, well, what if we hang on to this piece of real estate and it's got a low interest rate and we put a renter in there and we buy our next home, but we rent this home out. And we've seen that more than ever lately, which also impacts the amount of inventory that's available to us as buyers out there. So when you have, when we say buy demand and supply, I feel like we go back to those economic classes in high school that some of us might not remember. But think about it like in the COVID time period when we ran out of toilet paper, when we all ran out of toilet paper and you needed some, you'd spend $10 for the roll, right? You're like, listen, I'm out of Kleenex. I don't have any toilet paper. So all this is to say is it's not like what we saw in 2008, where there was manipulation and fraudulent activity of appraisals and value and loans. We are purely in a market of we don't have enough homes. We have more people who want homes. It's stabilized now, and this is why I love that we're doing this morning, is because it's stabilized right now because interest rates are still in those mid sixes right now. And psychologically, they think that's a high rate. Now, if we actually remove the unicorn decade of low rates and we look at all the other decades, the math would tell us that a low 6% interest rate is very normal. It's just compared to what? If we compare it to the last decade when we were getting out of the housing crash, a 6% rate doesn't feel or sound normal, but it is. And so it's like what economists are predicting is that when interest rates come down to anything in the fives, that's their psychological trigger of emotionally, because some of this is emotional, like, oh, okay, we made it. We're back in the fives. The prediction is when rates come back in the fives, all of these people who want to buy a home because they know the financial impact a home can do, especially versus renting, right? Which we can get into. Um, they're going to re-enter the market. And if we've been underbuilding since 2017, what do you think is going to happen when you have a surplus of people re-enter the market at the same time because they're all chomping at the bit? They want to buy, they've been stuck in that annoying apartment, they've got neighbors, their dog can't roam around, you know what I mean? Supply and demands, just like toilet paper during COVID, You re-enter the market, it's going to drive home prices up, and we're back in a very competitive type market where I know Daniel remembers this, but man, and when we were in that market in 2021, not only did home prices increase, but it was like 30 people all made an offer on the home that they wanted. They all felt that was their dream home. They wanted that home. And now all of a sudden, you're competing against 10 other offers. And when there's competition like that, you compete in price, you compete in waiving any kind of seller concessions that they could pay or repair things for you. When it's a competitive market like that, now the seller has more power than the buyers because there's 10 buyers that are willing to buy my home. So we lose some of that power as a buyer to negotiate and have time to make decisions. And so I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but so if your belief is that we have a shortage of inventory, it doesn't even have to believe, you can look at the data, but if you see the data that we have a shortage of inventory, you know that we've got people that want to buy homes and are waiting. We know that if they re-enter the market, home prices are going to go up. Here's the $1 million question that Daniel and I get asked all the time. And it's, well, should I wait for interest rates to come down before I buy? Because logically, right, it seems like it would make more sense to wait. Like if anybody has had that thought, feel free to drop it in the chat. Like, yeah, like logically that seems like it would make sense. We want the lowest rate, right? And all I would tell you is, again, because I'm a math nerd, we'd have to look at the data. And I actually have this here, but considering we're having a little bit of difficulties, I'll try to show it to you guys. Um,
I've got one little chart
okay,
that
okay, okay, good. But we would look at, okay, if we buy a home today and the price of the home is 500,000 and this is the rate and this is the payment, but we wait a year to buy, the rate might come down, but here's the variable that nobody factors is real estate is still appreciating in value. And Daniel and I can pull up every single county and we can tell you what the forecasted appreciation is for the specific county that you're looking in. So for example, I pulled it up this morning to look at Denton and Collin, and we're still averaging about a 3% appreciation. And so what that means is if you fall in love with a home today for this square footage, this number of bedrooms, this number of bathrooms, all the things, right? That exact same home 1 year from now, instead of it being at a price tag of 500,000, because real estate is an appreciating asset, that exact same home could now be at a cost of 515,000. Like the price tag went up. So really what we have to analyze is, well, does it make more sense to buy when the price is as cheap as possible, knowing we can drop the interest rate at any time? You're not stuck with an interest rate, but you are stuck with the price that you paid for a home. So then we'd have to run math to say, okay, well, hang on. If we buy it today at the 500,000, super cheap at a 6.875, but a year from now, the rate drops down to 5.875. Well, you locked in at that price of 500,000. So all that means is part of our services is we monitor the interest rate for you after closing. If it makes sense to redo your mortgage, we will reach out to you and we will do it for zero out of pocket. And so you kept the low price tag, but now we can drop your rate and drop your payment for zero out of pocket for you. And so it's like you got to gain the equity of that 15,000, but we're always going to be looking to lower your rate and your payment. And we do that until your loan is sold or until you pay off your house. We will always monitor the interest rate. And I think that's the biggest message that I want to get out to people is the price of the homes continue to appreciate in DFW. This is not true for all parts of the US, but specifically DFW. The homes are appreciating because it's a hot market and people want to live here. It's still going up. What we have to look at is rates and payments and assessing, is it better to get a low price tag on the price and redo the rate later, right? That's kind of what is really the bigger question is what does that math look like? What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, so 100%. I appreciate you just breaking it down for us. Because what people forget is, and I appreciate you mentioning that we still have an inventory shortage because a lot of times we don't feel it.
Right.
And we're basing all our decisions based on the market the last 10 years. It's like it doesn't feel good, the 6% interest rate, but that's just because we're coming off of the three. The inventory doesn't feel like, I mean, it feels like there's a lot because there is more, but it's just because we're comparing it to what we had in the last few years. So the comparisons kind of just they don't necessarily always make sense from a historical standpoint, but it's just based off emotions that we're feeling. But this idea of locking in the price today, like I agree with Denise, there is a lot of pent-up buyers and a lot of them are on the sidelines for various reasons. And a lot of it's because they just have fears. They have fears of
Right.
the market, they have fears of their jobs, they have fears of, but they're ready and willing to go. And the moment that rates drops, you're going to see people come back on the market. And so locking in the price today, again, as Denise shared, at $500,000, again, the interest rates we can always refi. We've got some great products out there. We even to get the monthly payment lower, one of my favorite strategies is a recast loan, which you can chat with Denise about. It's an opportunity to lower your monthly payment down in the future. And so I threw out a chart earlier while Denise was sharing, and that's it at 500,000 at today's interest rate would run around 2,500 a month for your monthly payments. But if we're able to lower it at the same cost of 500,000, your monthly payment drops to 2,271. Versus if the price increases, even with that lower rate at 5.5%, your monthly payment would have been 2,384. So again, it's the most important thing. The thing that you can't change is the price. And that's why there's an opportunity today, right? And again, we want to be sensitive to people's situations. It doesn't mean that it's, yeah, we got to jump in, but there is an opportunity for buyers right now. And that's my biggest concern is because potentially by waiting, you could be priced out of the market later, or the level of home that you want is going to drop by one level, one or two levels based on the new price points.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Daniel, is in the last 2 weeks, we've had more discovery calls because just so you know, to talk to a lender, you don't have to have your credit pulled right away and go through the mortgage application process. We can just have a discovery call or what we call a planning call. But there is still such a myth out there that you need perfect credit and a lot of money to buy a home. And what's really great about the market that we're in specifically right now is now more than ever because buyers still have the upper hand. I don't know how long we're going to have the upper hand, but we still now have the upper hand. You can negotiate, and Daniel's the best there is at this. You can negotiate with the seller to say, hey, we're going to offer you this for your home, but we want $10,000. This is just an example $10,000 as a seller credit. So we can use that for whatever we want. Now we're going to assess, do we want to use that to lower your funds to close and write a loan for you with no closing costs? And that helps your funds to close. So maybe you can come to the closing table with as little as 3%, 3.5%. We have programs and grant programs that can even cover your down payment. But we can negotiate with the seller right now because buyers still have some control to say, well, we want you to cover all of our closing costs. That's great. In 2021, you weren't getting that. Or maybe you're like, I really want the lowest payment possible. So, what if we could buy this home and have the seller pay for a lower interest rate? And we can permanently reduce the interest rate. And so, we have a lot of clients right now that are still buying homes with a rate in the five because we can negotiate with the seller and say, we want you to buy the interest rate down. And again, Daniel does all this, he does it all the time. He's the best there is at it. It's all in how you guys structure the offers. But you have flexibility to say, do we want lower out of pocket? Do we want a lower payment? Sometimes you can get both. Again, it just depends on how many buyers are after that house at that point in time. But if you've been thinking like, well, I need 20% down, or I need all this money to cover closing costs, maybe you even met with a lender that gave you a budget of how much money you would need, it might not be the most accurate. Did they look at programs like down payment grants that cover your down payment? Was that an option that was given to you or not? Those are the least profitable loans for mortgage companies. And so oftentimes they don't truly investigate if you qualify because it doesn't make them as much money. And I hate to say that, but it's just the truth. Like we're full transparency here. And so maybe there's a way where we can get your down payment covered. Maybe we can get your closing costs covered. Maybe we can negotiate a rate in the fives for you. Even if the going rates are 6.5, we can still negotiate that and we do it on their dime, not yours. That's the beautiful thing about the market we have right now is we still have time to find the home, negotiate, and like we said, you can lock in the price of the home today. We can redo the interest rate later if and when they come down, But so I just wanted to share that because we can write loans. People are like, well, what does your credit score need to be? We can write loans right now down to 580, 3.5% down, 580. Technically, if you chat GPT it, you can go down to 500, but we call those the unicorn programs because yes, that's what the guideline says, but then it's like, but you can't have this on your credit and you can't have that on your credit. And it's like, well, that's why the score is 500 is because I have collections and you know what I mean? So, but don't let the fears of, is my credit good enough? Do I have enough down payment? And guys, just so you know, like there's no shame in my world. I had a single mom who got divorced. She's a professor at UNT, and she set up a discovery call and she said, Denise, I just feel so much shame that I'm in my 40s. I make good money, and I feel like I'm not good enough from a qualifying standpoint. I feel like I'm not good enough to buy a home, and it's frustrating. And I was like, I just appreciate you sharing that with me because there's no shame in our world. I'll do, if we can't get you into a home right now, we'll put a plan together to make it happen for you. Like that's my heart and soul of helping humans better their financial position. So i- if you are ever sitting in that state of like, I just don't know, sometimes the fear of the unknown, and like Daniel said at the beginning of the uncertainty, let's just find out. Let's rip that band-aid off and find out because the sooner we know, we can put a plan together. So I just want to make sure you guys all know that.
I love that because I think a lot of times people say, I don't want to talk to a realtor. I don't want to talk to a lender until I'm ready to buy. Like literally, like they're out looking at homes. And the reality is we can be a resource that even if it's 3 years, 4 years down the road, to come up with a strategy to prepare you to say, okay, what does it look like to start saving for a home? What do I need to save to get to that point? Right. And so having that conversation ahead of time will allow you to determine what your strategy is to be ready to buy a home, even if it's a few years out. So, I think a lot of times people, again, they just get shy. They don't want to talk to us because then they'll feel like, oh, we're committing to the process. And it's not, I mean, you're committing to the eventual goal of building wealth through home ownership, of being able to buy a first home. And it doesn't mean you're buying today either. So the
Yeah.
strategy session really is so important because it could be multiple steps and we can help you get there, but we can't help you get there if we're not having those conversations.
Yeah. And I have to share the story with you because it literally just happened last Sunday. When a client went into ChatGPT, and I love ChatGPT, y'all. I do, I love it. But they went into ChatGPT and it asked it, should I continue to rent or should I buy? I only plan to be in my home for 2 years. And they sent me the information and the math, and my stomach like sank because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is bot math. This isn't nerd math." And I said, "Hold on. Let me just run the full analysis where we look at your interest that you pay on your home is tax deductible. The taxes that you pay on a home are tax deductible." He was able to write off a certain percentage of the square footage of them. So, anyways, I just say that because literally, I kid you not, and you can go to my social media right now at the Mortgage Nerd. I posted the video so you can see the data and the math, but I showed what ChatGPT said, and then I did the my true nerd math. And owning was going to make his payment $1,000 a month cheaper. Full disclosure, the rent was $7,000 a month, which is a lot of money in rent. But this is a real life scenario. He was like, I'm going to pay $7,000 in rent, or I'm going to buy it. If he bought, the payment was going to be $6,000 with taxes and insurance. So off the bat, the payment was $1,000 cheaper. But here's where his math and the bot math missed it. He was thinking, well, I have to pay taxes and insurance, and that's a loss to me. And I'm like, but your rent at 7,000 is a complete loss. When we calculated what you paid in the loan balance, the principal amount in 2 years, it was 15,000. So that goes back in your pocket. When we calculate the tax deduction for the mortgage interest, that goes back in your pocket. And then when we calculate home appreciation, 3% in the next 2 years, y'all, it was $240,000 difference by owning versus renting in this person's situation. But the chat bot told him otherwise. And so all I'm saying is the human component of making sure that all of the data is being assessed for you, not just maybe what the prompt is that you're putting in there, could literally cost you hundreds and thousands of dollars. And so I just wanted to throw that out there that rely on nerd math, not bot math. I'm happy to help you anytime.
I love that. Denise really is amazing with numbers. And there's an emotional piece to buying a house, and then there's the number piece, right? And so the emotional piece, we obviously you guys will have different motivations to buy a house, whether it's starting a family, and that's going to be one of the main drivers as well. But the math also has to math, right? And so I love what she said, because again, a lot of people, they just say, okay, well, I'm just going to rent, but they don't anticipate the rents going up. You have no control over your future rental amounts. And I get it, right? As a homeowners, things are going to get more expensive as we own homes, but guess what? So it is true for the landlords, and they are going to pass that cost to the tenants, right? And so yes, insurance costs are going up through the roof. And guess what? Maintenance costs are going through the roof, and they're going to pass all of that on to the tenants. So, as much as we say, yes, your rent right now might be lower and comfortable, but you're also going to have to anticipate it's going to go up over time. And so again, just we'll have to crunch the numbers for you guys so to understand best that you understand best, right? What is the true cost of you staying in there? What is the right time? Do you have the money saved up? And you know what? I mean, there's options and solutions. For my generation, like Denise said, we're hoarding homes. Like we're not letting go of our homes. And a lot of it is we call them legacy homes. Buying up homes for my kids because
Right.
I'm concerned about the next generation. Yes, I am concerned about affordability. What happens if we become Austin and our entry point is $600,000? It's tough. And guess what? I'm already preparing for my kids and future generation to buy legacy homes. And so there's options for you as a first-time home buyer to say, well, what does that conversation look like, even with your family? Because, Denise, a lot of people think, well, I've got to come up with the down payment, and they don't realize that their parents are actually very much wanting to help them out. They're just thinking about passing their money through their equity when they could actually help them today and lock in today's prices. So
Absolutely.
how have you seen a lot of parents help out with the down payments or help out with assistance in that?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because, the forms of down payment. Number one, you can also use your 401k for a form of down payment. Some people have this weird emotional feeling about using their 401k. And so I just want to encourage you to think that your 401k is a investment vehicle to help you retire for the future. So is real estate. And so you don't want to go access your 401k and do what my mom would do and go buy every pair of shoes at Dillard's, right? Like that would be financially irresponsible. But if I would encourage everybody on this call right now, whatever your monthly rent is, write it down on the sheet of paper in front of you. Here's my monthly rent. And then I want you to do math. I know I'm going to make you do math, but if your rent is $1,500 a month, and I want you to multiply it by 12 months. And I want you to visually see what you're paying in rent in just 1 year. And then I want you to do it by 24 months. And then I want you to do it by 48 months, which is 4 years. Because I want your brain to visually see, because sometimes we don't focus on that end number. We're just focusing on what we're paying per month. But guys, when we add it up year after year, that's a lot of money to throw away. And so if you have the opportunity where you have a 401k and instead of throwing all that money away, you use money for a down payment to buy an asset that's going to help you get to retirement, that is a financially responsible move to make, not irresponsible because you're not using it on concert tickets, right? The other side of that is Daniel's absolutely right. These I'll call them boomers who own homes, they have more equity in their home than ever before because they owned these assets before home prices shot up. And if you ask your parents, what's interesting too is we don't talk to our family about money a whole lot, but we should. Um, what do they plan to do with this home when they pass? What do they plan to do with their assets when they pass? 90% of the time, their intention is to pass that down to their kids. And so rather than wait to do that until you pass, what if we could tap into their equity or their assets or whatnot and said, hey, you can take this out of the will. I want to borrow money from you from the will so that I can get into home ownership now before potentially we have another spike in demand and home prices shoot up. But you can do things like that, like your own your own loan from a 401k. Your parents might have a 401k or assets that are accruing and they could take a loan out. Equity, obviously those are family discussions, but when you start doing the math of what you're spending in rent and you know that that's 100% going in the trash can, it's not working for you. Um, it's meaningful. It's meaningful. The sooner you can get into this, the better. Because what's the alternative, right? Like if you're like, well, if you don't do this and you continue to rent, then what would that look like 10 years later? What does your family look like 10 years later with this rent? What do you think your rent payment will be in 10 years? And that's really all Daniel and I want is ask the questions yourself of well, is this the best strategy? Is the plan I'm on right now the best one to fuel my financial future, because the last thing you want is to be 60 or 65, and I know none of us are thinking about that, but the last thing you want is to be 60, 65, 70, and having to work and be stressed because you didn't have the proper plan in your 20s, 30s, 40s to prevent that lifestyle later in life. And it's just something that we never think about because we're all just living, we're living for the now and we don't think about it until it's too late. Daniel and I see it all the time because we're in the industry. I don't want that for you. We don't want that from you, and not from a sales point of view, but from a friend point of view. Of we've seen it, and that's a tough way to live when you're at that stage of your life. So, but there's lots of ways that you can get down payment and funds for a down payment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the most important thing again is the conversation, right? Understanding the options, and then that way you can make the best decision, because again, it doesn't all have to come from the parents. It could just be a portion, right? And then
Right.
again, it's developing a strategy with your family, and coming up with a solution together, right? And so I think that's the beauty of it is, again, sometimes we have to think outside the box because our natural proclivity is to say, I can't. I don't have the down payment money. And then we just stop thinking about it when potentially maybe we could start somewhere else, right? So I think that's the most important thing is again creating options and then seeing if that's a possibility.
So can I be a jerk for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna do some tough love for the first time home buyers, but I want you to know it comes from a place of love, truly. Um, so a lot of clients that we speak to when they're looking to buy a home and their belief is that they can't afford a home right now. And most times that's not an accurate belief, but it's the belief that they have currently. And so we always start with a planning call. And I'm like, all right, let's look first at your budget. How much income do you have coming in? What debts do you have? And that's pretty black and white. But here's where it gets interesting. And here's where some of you guys might start to tune out, but hang in there with me. I'm doing this out of love. I start looking at bank statements and the habits we have around spending money, in part because we think home ownership is so out of reach. is we get a little, this is a strong word, but we get a little careless with how we spend our money to the point where uh, I was talking, an analysis was this homeowner was on average door dashing food 3 times a week. The average DoorDash was around $35 with all the fees and stuff. So if you take DoorDash 3 times a week at $35 and you multiply it by the year, again, in the moment, that one DoorDash doesn't seem like a lot. But when we do the math over a year, it's a lot of money. Now let's add on, ladies, our Target runs or our Amazon runs. Or I met with a 24-year-old and she was averaging $400 a month in as in facials, nails, lashes, Botox. And I'm not shaming any of that. Look, ladies, I'm a lady, I'm all for it. But I just want to bring awareness. That's my job, is bring awareness to you might be spending money on things subconsciously because it's in your bank account and you've ruled out home ownership, and so now you might think it's unaffordable, but it might be more affordable than what you think if we got real with where your money was being sent. That's it. That's all I'll say. I don't care where you spend your money, but I do care to help you reach your financial plan. And so that's just something for you to think about of, well, maybe if I cut down on this, and this, and maybe I only Amazoned one time a week, or maybe I only DoorDash one time a week. Ladies, get your nails done. I'm all for it. I get my own nails done. But that is part of the analysis. It's to say my job's to help you and give you the truth of what we can do to help you financially reach your goal. We want you to reach your goal. That means giving you tough love and real love, right? But if you're like, Denise, I want to have financial freedom, which to me doesn't mean that you have to have billions of dollars in the bank. It means the freedom to choose, the freedom to choose what you want to do, when you want to do it. And if you tell me that's your goal, I'm going to love you enough to tell you the tough love too. So,
You know, the funny thing is that I did a study a while ago, and I think the misconception is the ladies spend more than the guys, but that's not true because the guys are the big spenders. Their purchases are the expensive things. It may not happen as
see,
often.
we know. I don't give my husband my bacon. I'm like, no, sir. Nope. I'm the saver. No, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah,
it's true. If subconsciously you think it's unattainable, and listen, on all the social media feeds and all that kind of stuff, the headlines, we know marketing is fear based. That you don't get attention and you don't get clicks if you don't create some sort of fear or drama. And so when you see enough of that, you might just be ruling it out. But I would encourage you to not rule it out, because I would hate for you to be, too late in life to figure out, darn, I shouldn't have probably DoorDash food. Just make food, or at least get your butt up and go get the food. So it's just something to consider.
yeah. I wanted to touch on one thing because I think there's a false narrative that people keep asking, is the market going to crash, right? And this is all tied into kind of how we feel about things and, is it a good time right now to buy? Um, you know, the narrative is merging out of this idea that, hey, we are overpriced right now, and mainly because of our pricing the last few years. We did see a correction in our market, at least in Dallas, at the end of 2022. It probably dropped 10% from May down to the end of the year of 2022. But I did want to share, like, I mean, one of the things that's happening in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is we are still growing like crazy. We've experienced the largest population increase nationwide from July 2024 to July 2025. So we've had around 124,000. These are the stats online moving to the Dallas Fort Worth area. And I mean, just think about that. That's the equivalent of the city of the size of Allen or College Station just in a single year. And that works out to be about 339 people a day moving to the Metroplex. Collin County alone saw 43,000 people being added to the area. And that's second nationally only to Harris County, which includes the greater, the Houston area. I mean, our metro area in Texas Right now, we're the third largest in the nation. We're closing in on Chicago for number two. I mean, some of those stats are just mind-blowing. And then it's not even just Dallas-Fort Worth, right? Texas, I didn't even know this as I was looking it up. I was like, oh my gosh, if Texas was a country, we would be the eighth largest economy in the world, right? Ahead of Canada, even Russia. Like
Wow,
our
that's pretty
GDP
cool.
is totals 2.4 trillion. So I mean, the number of businesses that are moving to the area, the number of people that are coming here, that just creates more stress on our inventory. Now, again, for whatever reason, all the people that are moving here, they're buying into those myths about like, oh, I'm scared about now, if they are really going to sell their house in a year or two, that's a different story. Like if they're saying, hey, I'm only going to be here, my work is only going to be here for a year or two, that's a completely different story. But if they are planning to be here the long term, right? Everything will even out over the long term. We've had a consistent appreciation over the years. The national average is 4%. And so even let's say worst case scenario, because of everything that's going on economically, politically, that we go down a little bit over the next year or two, we just like hold it like a stock and we ride it out, and the numbers always show that it comes back up. So I just wanted to share that bit of information because again, it's very local, right? Like if we were living in Detroit, Michigan, then I would be a little bit concerned. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know if I want to buy in this market, right? People are leaving Detroit. But we are here in Dallas, right? We are here and especially if you're buying in Collin County, that's even more so. Yeah, I mean, Collin County did see a little bit of a drop in their overall pricing, I think, last year, but over time, it's going to continue to grow. The appreciation is going to be there. People are just moving to the area like crazy.
Yep, that I'm so glad you pointed that out because you're right. Sometimes these headlines, they're national headlines, but Detroit's a little bit different than Dallas. So that's why you need local experts that are analyzing and assessing the data of where you're thinking of living. So I love that you broke that down.
Yeah. And so, I mean, is affordability still a challenge? Yes, because really the prices have increased more so than our income.
Yeah.
And so the price to income ratio has almost doubled since like the 80s. And so that's where we feel the affordability challenge. And it's 100% true. That part is 100% true. But just because it's more challenging doesn't mean that, we cannot get into it so we can ride with the market going forward. So that's the biggest question, that we have. Again, it's again just having the right information and understanding the numbers so that you guys can make the best decisions.
Yeah, I actually call it like a home buying x-ray. It's
Mhm.
like we don't know until we do an x-ray into your finances and your situation. And so you don't know if it's unaffordable or not until we do the math. And some people are surprised that they're approved for way more home. They're like, oh my gosh, I would never want that much home. This is all I want. And they're just surprised. And so there really is power in knowledge and clarity and a plan, whether you're thinking of buying in a month or in 2 years. It's never too early to start those conversations. But having the clarity of a plan with your specific situation just puts so much of your mind at ease because you're like, oh, my credit's good. Oh, that blemish on my credit doesn't matter. The banks don't look at it. Please don't try to do anything with your credit on your own and repair your own credit, like pay collections off because you think it's going to be beneficial. Mortgage lenders look at things very differently. So before you do that, let us look at it and we can guide you. But there is so much power in clarity of knowing what you can and can't do and having a plan. So it doesn't mean you have to buy tomorrow. You could buy in 2 years, but having the plan at least starts to put you in the right on the right path.
Yes, don't rely on yourself to fix your credit because I paid off one of my cars and my credit score went down. I was
Yep.
like, what?
We had a client pay off
So,
their collection account and their score went down. And they're like, Denise, I don't understand. I'm like, because a paid off collection is the same reporting as a collection with a $5,000 balance. Again, something that seems logical, it just doesn't translate. And so, when in doubt, That's what we're here for. Give us a call. We would love to help you.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, talk to Denise, right? I mean, again, the credit agencies look at credit score one way. Lenders, you want to make sure that you're pulling the right levers that the lenders look at. So that's an essential part of the home buying process. Um, as we kind of wrap up, I mean, I want to be respectful of your time, but the one thing that I also wanted to do, just kind of wrap up here, is whatever your risk tolerance is, like, when you go to a financial planner and they say, how do you want to invest your stock portfolio? Are you a risk averse and maybe 5 out of 10 versus, no, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to invest in high risk
Bitcoin.
stocks at 8 out of 10, right? Let us know what your risk tolerance is
Yeah.
because that also is part of our responsibility in jobs. So if you go to Denise and you say, hey, you know what? I'm very risk averse. I want a conservative. She's going to be able to help you guide you on your monthly payment and all that stuff. Because guess what? I actually am very conservative as a buyer. And I know that with insurance rates going up and through the roof, I always tell all of my buyers, you got to have a little bit of extra buffer in terms of your monthly payment because there's a portion of it that is going to increase. We just don't know where. It's a little bit out of our control. So let us know because we can make adjust the numbers to where it makes sense for you. And Denise would be more on the front end in terms of the monthly payments and how we can handle that. I'm more on the back end in terms of risk mitigation. So if you say, hey, Daniel, I'm going to take into consideration your resale value. I'm going to take into consideration. I always say I let the buyers look at the pretty, and I look at all the red flags for you not to buy the house. So it almost seems like I don't want you to buy the house, but I mean, it's like, okay, you might have this repair come down the pipe in 5 years. Is that okay? And if it's not okay, then maybe we ask for credit up front. In this market, we can. But again, those are the conversations we have because again, we want to set you up for success based on where you're at financially. So if cash flow is the most important thing, let us know. We can make those offers to give you more cash and help pay for your closing costs. So that is all part of the conversation with regards to understanding, how you operate as a buyer. What is your financial situation? So
Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah. So Denise, why don't you maybe we can, is there anyone have one last question? You can drop it in the chat. Or if not, maybe Denise, can you drop your information into the chat box?
Yeah. I'll drop it in right now. You can follow me on Instagram. I am constant doing updates. The Mortgage Nerd is my Instagram handle. And then if you go to my Instagram handle, you can see my contact information and my link tree. I also have my website, which is themortgagenerd.com. And so you've got the ability to even chat with me right there. You can plan a budget right on my website. You can check current rates right on my website. You can schedule a discovery call right on my website. So again, that's themortgagenerd.com.
Awesome. And I'm trying to type it in there. Um, and so, yeah, Miriam had a question. A lot of people are worried about the cost of maintaining a home than actually buying it. That's a great question, right? I think that's part of the conversation of saying, okay, do you want an older home or do you want something that's newer? It could be older, but if it's been updated, then that's also okay. So the biggest things that I typically look at, I mean, obviously we're looking at foundation, we're looking at AC, we're looking at water heater. I'm looking at the age of all those things. And then, use the home warranty. We could actually extend. So part of it is saying now, I think I've seen some companies offer home warranties that are 3 years. So maybe that's the best plan for them and say, hey, I'm going to ask it for credit from the seller to pay for 3 years of home warranty so that actually covers them on that first portion of their home buying journey. Because yeah, the cash outlay is a lot up front. And so you want to help them ensure that they're not having to pay a lot right out of the get-go. So, that's partly the inspection report. And then we actually partner with a new company that is able to give you estimates of all the inspection items and then also the cost to repair them. So that's also a value add that we have as agents to be able to find the right partners that can help them understand what is the cost on the back end, right? Um, but absolutely, yeah, that's one solution, Miriam, for understanding the cost of maintaining a home. But we can certainly have that conversation, right? As a investor, let's say if I'm buying an investment home, our general rule of thumb is save 1% of the sales price. It's a very, very ballparkish number. But the idea is if I save that amount, let's say my house is worth $500,000, I'm saving $5,000 a year because guess what? Over time, let's say if my AC goes out, well, I've accumulated money in my bank account now to pay for that repair, right? So that's a super general number. But it'll give you a little bit of an idea if your clients do need to know, or if you need to know as a buyer. So, all right. Well, I think the most important thing though is if you guys have questions, right? The next thing is really just to follow up with a strategy call because everything we've talked about really is a little bit more general, and ultimately a strategy call will help us understand better where are you again, like you said, if like we said earlier, if you're a few years out. That's okay. We want to help you at least ask the right questions to understand what the next steps are. And so we're here to serve you. We're here to help you guys out. I'm gonna drop my information in the chat too. There's my phone number and here's my email address. We just want to be a resource for you in any way possible to help you make the best decisions. Any last words, Denise?
Nope. Other than there's a word that I want you guys to think of. It's Sente. It's a Greek game, and it's kind of like Othello here in the U.S. But you have either a Sente strategy or a Gote strategy. And a Sente strategy means that you're putting yourself in a position to win. And so I always like my clients to know that, listen, that's what Daniel and I are here for. We want to be your Sente. We want to help you be in the strongest financial position, prepare that budget for you. So, like he said, we're here as a resource. You can call, text anytime. There's no dumb question, silly question. Your honest question is what we want, and we're going to give you our very best advice. So, thank you for taking your time this Saturday to hang out with us. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we'll be in touch. And then again, just reach out to us if you guys have any other questions. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.